Look, I am not a babyface. I am not a heel.
Granted more wishes than any other celebrity in the history of the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
I don't blame a portion of the audience for getting complacent.
This may be more pressure than John Cena can handle.
But I'm not gonna change who I am.
I'm a human being.
John Cena's heel turn broke the internet after it happened at Elimination Chamber 2025. A lot has been said about it, but not many have spoken about the insane psychology behind it all. What led to John Cena's heel turn? Was this the plan all along? Were there clues thrown in between to indicate that this was happening? Join us as we dive into the insane psychology of John Cena's heel turn. John Cena becoming a villain was basically the equivalent of Superman turning to the dark side. Virtually any and every superstar in WWE history turns into a villain at some point. Legends like Rey Mysterio are the exception, not the rule. If you look at the faces of WWE throughout history, even Hulk Hogan was a heel, and although his run as a villain was primarily in WCW, he returned to WWE as a bad guy in 2002. The Rock became a villain in 2003 and had one of the best short-lived runs as a bad guy, but Stone Cold's turn to the dark side 2 years earlier was a complete flop. That was because nobody was ready to see Steve Austin become a bad guy. Add to that the underwhelming Invasion angle in 2001 and Austin becoming a comedic character, and it's not hard to see why it left a lot to be desired. The same wasn't the case for John Cena though. Even in his first year as the face of the company in 2005, the "John Cena sucks" crowd started growing in numbers after he was dispatching of legend after legend from the likes of Chris Jericho to Kurt Angle. Those negative voices grew louder each year as John Cena began to be viewed by some as the corporate golden boy who always had to come out on top. But for WWE, that didn't matter. The shift to PG-TV in 2008 meant that they were targeting kids and families, and that specific demographic loved John Cena. That was why he was genuinely polarizing back in his prime. We might look at Vince McMahon's stubbornness and refusal to change his character through a negative lens, but it's also not hard to see why he had such cold feet at the idea of a villainous Cena. By this point in the 2010s, he invested far too much time and money into making Cena the public face of WWE, and it became hard to justify the guy doing hundreds of Make-A-Wish requests turning to the dark side. Cena went as far as to reveal that during his rivalry against The Rock leading up to WrestleMania 28 in 2012, WWE was finally set to pull the trigger on his heel turn. He had new music ready, new ring gear, and a brand new character. But just as everything was ready to go, Vince McMahon refused to pull the trigger. He just couldn't fathom the idea of the face of WWE becoming a villain. And so, it eventually came to pass that John Cena was never going to be a villain. As he transitioned into part-time status by the end of 2015, putting one foot in Hollywood, the entire sentiment towards him started to shift. Suddenly, the reaction started to get less polarizing, and even the adult fans who couldn't stand him started to warm up to him. In 2016 and 2017, he put over superstars like AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Bray Wyatt, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Roman Reigns. After years of getting accused of burying younger stars, he chose to help pave the way for current top superstars, selflessly taking the pinfall. It was also this that led to him losing a considerable number of big matches, which is going to be really important later in this video, so make sure to stick around. His matches became increasingly farther apart, and absence made the heart grow fonder. So when John Cena graced fans with his presence, it was always an occasion to celebrate, but he also became less relevant in the context of modern storylines. His impact was felt less by the year, and fans were lucky if he even competed once. In 2022, for example, he waited until December 30th to wrestle his only match that year. He also crossed paths with Roman Reigns, who ironically enough, was held back because he was being pushed as the next John Cena. Unlike Cena, Roman Reigns put his foot down with Vince McMahon when he knew his character had reached as far as it could, and that was when we saw the Tribal Chief. Even with Roman Reigns becoming a villain and fulfilling the potential many knew he always had, the same wasn't expected for John Cena. Even when he announced in 2025 his retirement tour, nobody expected it to go in the direction that it did. We all thought that we'd get a few storylines, some dream matches, and a big send-off in December. But this changes everything. We asked a few questions in the beginning, so it's time to answer them as we look at the incredible psychology behind John Cena's heel turn. What led to the turn? If John Cena just won the Elimination Chamber and set up a passing of the torch good guy versus good guy match, it wouldn't have been nearly as enthralling. It would basically be like Cody Rhodes versus an older version of himself. Cody Rhodes being in his prime and John Cena being in his final year, along with a mismatch of circumstances, is what led to the turn. Allow us to elaborate. It's crazy to think that Cody Rhodes needed to turn heel in AEW to ensure he stayed relevant, but his refusal to do so timed perfectly with his jump back to WWE. That bet worked out better than he could have ever hoped or expected. In this run alone, he had a classic trilogy with Seth Rollins where he did a complete 3-0 whitewash. He had a victorious feud against Brock Lesnar, became the first person in nearly 3 decades to win back-to-back Royal Rumbles, headlined WrestleMania thrice in 2 years, became the man to end the greatest world title reign of the 21st century, and also became the cause of The Rock's incredible transition to the final boss. That's the kind of trust a company has in a superstar they want to put front and center. The idea of Cody Rhodes turning heel and becoming The Rock's champion is enticing, but it's more akin to Stone Cold in 2001. It would be random, and fans aren't ready to hate Cody just like they weren't willing to hate Steve Austin 24 years ago. That's where it makes perfect sense for John Cena, the character, to try to usurp his power back in his final run. Cena crossed paths with his successor Roman Reigns and lost at SummerSlam 2021, adding a chip on his shoulder. John Cena was graceful about his defeat, and even 2 years later on SmackDown when he confronted Roman Reigns, he had the dignity to admit that he wasn't deserving of it, setting up LA Knight's, path to the world title picture. Knowing his past failures against his successor Roman Reigns only adds greater motivation for Cena to do everything he can against Cody Rhodes, the man who is now in the position that Cena was in over a decade ago. Good old classy John Cena wasn't gonna cut it, and it gave him a reason to take a different route after 20 years of being a good guy. To add to that, the fact that it's his last year has visibly been at the forefront of why he made the decision to join The Rock. The chase for number 17 is what it's all about, and the signs of desperation were shown before, but we simply didn't notice it until it became obvious. So that's where we're going to lead into the next question we asked earlier in the video. What exactly were the clues leading to that fateful moment in Toronto? For one, it was his appearances in the first 2 months of 2025, or lack thereof. Cena was always a lock to appear on the Raw on Netflix premiere, and he did just that. He let fans know that his chances of winning number 17 were slim because it had been over 6 years since his last singles win. It's crazy to think about it, but his victory over Triple H in April 2018 in Saudi Arabia is, to this date, his last win in a singles match. Naturally, that put him low on the list of potential world title contenders. But then he had a glimmer of hope by declaring himself in the Royal Rumble match. He was even a firm favorite, but he fell short to Jey Uso in his last ever Rumble appearance. Leading up to Elimination Chamber, he made no appearances and just went straight to Toronto while skipping the entire build. It raised some eyebrows as to what the retirement tour was even going to be about, whether it would just be Cena continuing to make sporadic appearances after implying that he was going to be there for most of the year in WWE. But now, we know that it was part of the plan, and Cena was being evasive and borderline entitled enough to not appear for the build to the Rumble or Chamber only seems obvious in hindsight. After he was the runner-up at Royal Rumble, John Cena went to the post-show press conference and something was visibly different. Rather than entertaining every question, he made a mission statement. he was going to enter the Elimination Chamber match, win it, and compete for a world championship at WrestleMania. After Jey Uso picked World Heavyweight Champion Gunther as his WrestleMania opponent, it meant that all roads led to Cody Rhodes. Few people question the fact that John Cena got a free ticket into the Elimination Chamber match, while every other contestant had to qualify for their spot. Heck, even his biggest rival CM Punk admitted that he felt Cena had done enough in the past to get such a big spot. But looking at Cena's win-loss record for over half a decade, it leaves a lot to be desired. It's not the type of record you look at and go, oh yeah, he deserves a shot to be in the main event of WrestleMania. It was his legacy and star power that seemingly got him his spot, or so we thought. Looking back at it now, it's easy to see how The Rock likely used his position as a TKO board member to get Cena a spot in the match, while everyone else had to fight and toil to get that same spot. Even outside of John Cena, there were two instances from TKO and WWE higher-ups that directly teased the moment of Cena's heel turn. In an interview with Pat McAfee, Ari Emanuel, the CEO of TKO, said that some pretty good things are going to happen at the Elimination Chamber. Triple H hyped it up as an industry-changing event, so there just had to be something like this. Another sign was all the way back at Bad Blood 2024. The Rock came out and showed 3 fingers to Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, and everybody thought that a triple threat match was going to happen at WrestleMania 41. But when addressing it after the incident at Elimination Chamber, The Rock addressed the backlash and said that everyone thought his gesture at Bad Blood meant nothing. According to the man himself, he's a long-term thinker, and that the 3 fingers he lifted can be traced as an imitation of John Cena's hand gesture. This means that the final boss always had a plan. Some fans have pointed out some even crazier instances that come off as a coincidence, but seem to be anything but that. For example, if you recall the iconic segment on Raw last year where The Rock was beating Cody Rhodes on the roof of the building while it was raining, there was a clear backdrop of a WWE production truck. On that production truck was the face of John Cena. We don't blame you if you think that's just a little bit too deep, but you can't deny that it seems like an eerie tease. Heading closer to the event, there were a couple of signs that hinted at John Cena's turn. For one, WWE's promotional poster of the Elimination Chamber showed The Rock, John Cena, and Travis Scott, an all too obvious tease of what was to come. Don't ask us what the psychology of Travis Scott being there was, because we're still trying to make sense of it weeks later. But what was more interesting was a post that John Cena put out on Instagram on the day of his final Chamber match. As you probably know, Cena is quite a prolific poster on Instagram. Every post of his is an image without any explanation whatsoever, and the same was the case when he posted a photo of Big E. You're probably thinking, but Big E didn't turn heel, Kofi and Xavier did. You'd be right in saying that, but that's not what the meaning of the Instagram post featuring Big E was. It was an image of Big E in late November 2014 when the New Day were getting their start as a team. So the post can really be interpreted as a new day for his character. His posts since turning heel have been a little bit more obvious, but before it happened, he also posted an image of Patrick Bateman from American Psycho on January 1st. That image showed Bateman ripping his mask off, and it can be seen as a direct interpretation of Cena shedding the skin of his old character. Around February 21st, he posted an image of He-Man and his arch-nemesis Skeletor sharing a milkshake, which can be interpreted as him making a deal with the devil, or in this case, The Rock. Exactly a week later, he posted a picture of his Hustle Loyalty Respect hat hung up. Do we need to say more? The last and obvious tease was the finish of the Elimination Chamber match. John Cena and CM Punk hugged it out as they got ready to be the final 2 contestants, and they showed fans why they were wrestling soulmates. Seth Rollins, who was eliminated, ended up hitting the curb stomp on CM Punk, and as you probably know, this tied in directly to the finish. It wasn't just the fact that Cena was so quick to take advantage. Just look at how he applied the STF on CM Punk. For all those years, it looked like he hardly had it on, but this time, very intentionally, he had his entire arm wrapped around CM Punk's neck in what was a brutal but guaranteed way to secure his victory. The John Cena of old would have undoubtedly waited for CM Punk to fully recover so he could give him a fair shot at earning the WrestleMania spot. But this new, desperate John Cena took the first opportunity he could, won his final Elimination Chamber match, and secured his spot against Cody Rhodes in the main event of WrestleMania. His final WrestleMania, and possibly his final opportunity at winning world title number 17. To be able to do it as a villain would be nothing short of crazy. To add to the pressure, his last singles win, as we mentioned earlier, came in late April 2018, April 27th to be exact. Assuming he faces Cody Rhodes on night 2, which is April 20th this year, it means that he'll be 1 week shy of his last singles win. So imagine how insane it would be if he broke that streak and picked up his record-breaking world title while at it. This is something that was years in the making, and it made sense to pull the trigger on it and add some spice to his final year. The pressure of doing those Make-A-Wish requests is now gone and will be in the hands of somebody like Cody Rhodes. To answer another question we asked earlier, was this the plan all along? We're gonna take a safe bet and say no. Obviously, it's just speculation from our side, so you can take it with a grain of salt. But we can't help but feel that the ever-changing plans of The Rock have something to do with how things have turned out. There was even a rumor from the Wrestling Observer that The Rock's personal first pick was Cody Rhodes, and that after the powers that be convinced him that Cody needs to remain a hero, John Cena was the second choice. Ironically, it was presented that way in the storyline too, but the desperation of John Cena brought out an incredible side that was just waiting to come out for years. The question for WWE is now, do you give Cody Rhodes that definitive victory, or do you have John Cena win world title number 17 as a villain? It's going to be incredible to see where this journey takes us. We expect that John Cena is going to be a methodical and psychologically thrilling character to do a deep dive on, but we're going to have to wait and see where it goes and how it goes. It certainly wouldn't be surprising to see him have a redemption arc later this year where he retires as a hero, but we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Did we miss any clues that hinted at the incredible John Cena heel turn? Let us know in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching.